expanded maternity leave, or the RE number 112210, or also known as 105-day expanded maternity leave. At this point in time, we have our speaker. She holds a doctoral degree in medicine, which she earned at the La Salle College of Medicine. With her expertise in policy and program development and implementation in matters concerning working conditions and safety and health, she has been appointed as Executive Director of Occupational Safety and Health Center Department of Labor and Employment in October 2010 to January 27. At present, she sits as the Director of Bureau of Working Conditions, Department of Labor and Employment. Let's all welcome Director and now ASEC, Tessie Copcueco. Ma'am?
Hi. Good afternoon po, and we're here to now discuss, of course, I think an item, an issue, a law, and the IRR that has already been like 1 year since its implementation. Anyway, I think by this time you have already heard so much of this law, and let me now. But again, this is still very timely because of these issues of women and pregnant women and their leaves. This is not new. This is expanded, meaning to say there has been a maternity leave benefit already in the past. Let us. Okay. Well, okay. The law actually was signed last year in February 20. So tomorrow is the anniversary of the law. But if you look at the IRR was signed on Labor Day of the same year, last year. But there is something very peculiar in this law, because the effectivity of this law, despite its IRR signed on May 1, was that in the law itself, it says it would be effective 15 days after publication. So everything in the law, the benefits are applicable on March 11, 2019. Meaning to say, yung mga nanganak, kasi this is a maternity leave law, on March 11 onwards, will have all the benefits of this 105 days, the expanded maternity leave. If you gave birth on March 10, you would have wished to have given birth on midnight, then it would have been applicable. But really, the law became applicable on March 11, 2019. So this is, of course, in the law, we are looking at, again, emphasizing the women's maternal and social responsibility. The law is important here, and it is expanded because we take consideration of two important concerns with women. When she gives birth, there is a time to regain health, and because she has given birth and there is an infant to be taken care of, there are maternal roles that should be also provided by the pregnant woman who has given birth. So actually, if you're going to, and I will be explaining this, the 60 days of post-delivery is there. Then that means you have that additional 45 days. That's why it's now 105 days for her to assume the maternal role. The whole law covers so many sectors where females are. In the public sector, the private sector, the informal economy, those females who are voluntary contributors of the SSS, as well as the female national athletes. But for this afternoon's discussion, let us just look at women in the private sector. Okay, it has been defined in the IRRs that when we talk of female workers, we are going to include domestic workers. There is, of course, services done by this worker for an employer, which uses both mental and physical efforts. They have received compensation for such service, and this is very important. There is an employer-employee relationship. Now, to be eligible for these, for the EML, the expanded maternity leave benefits, there should be at least 3 monthly contributions. This is very important because if this is absent, there is really nothing that the SSS can give, because this law anchors, of course, in the contributions to the SSS. So there is 3 monthly contributions, and it is also specific that it should be done in a 12-month period preceding the semester of the contingency. So it will really go back. It can go back even, a year before that semester of her pregnancy, and there should be at least 3. Then, of course, there should be a notification that the worker has notified her employer of her pregnancy and the probable date of the childbirth, and the employer should have then notified the SSS in the prescribed manner, because there are forms that should be filled up by the employer in filing for the maternity leave. Maternity leaves cannot be deferred but should be availed of either before or after the actual period of delivery in a continuous and uninterrupted manner. So to avail of this maternity leave, we are looking at 105 days continuous, uninterrupted. Wala ng calendar working days, it's continuous po. From the time of when she takes actually usually they take a leave before the delivery, then you count 105 days. But it is also important that when they deliver, there should be postnatal care that should not be less than 60 days. So those who opt to leave even before, just before their childbirth, or a week or 2 weeks before that, the count will continue and it will still be 105 days. Maternity leaves should be granted to every qualified worker in every instance of pregnancy, miscarriage, or even an emergency termination of pregnancy, regardless of frequency. So if, and this can happen, she gives birth in January, then gets pregnant in March, and perhaps an early delivery in December, she will still be granted that the benefits. However, there are certain conditions though that have to be followed. Now, there have been questions here. I'll just point it out now. Kung twins ho yan, hindi dalawang EML yan, isa pa rin ho yan. Kasi the condition is still one pregnancy. Even if it's triplet, it's still one pregnancy. Now, if it's a miscarriage following a pregnancy, then you will still follow the availment of leaves, even if it all happens in 1 year. Okay, so what are the benefits in the expanded maternity leave? It is a full pay leave for the duration of 105 days of live childbirth. If there is a miscarriage, kasi wala nang lumabas na bata, or there was, of course, a stillbirth, a death, then you are just going to look at taking care of the mother, so which would be 60 days of paid leave, which is for miscarriage and even emergency termination of pregnancy. Now, there is an addition if the female, the pregnant worker, is a solo parent, defined in Republic Act 8972, she can have additional 15 days, and that is still a paid leave. Now, if you would still like, there is still an option to extend an additional 30 days. However, there is no more pay, full pay to be received here. So again, the requirement here is that, of course, there should be a live childbirth that has happened. Now, in addition to these paid leaves, there is also a leave allocation. There is now an option to allocate up to 7 days of these benefits to a child's father, whether they're married to the female worker or not, or an alternate caregiver. And this has been defined in the law and the IRR as a relative within the fourth degree of consanguinity or a current partner. And here, let me just know, whether male or female, it does not define it anymore. Just a current partner. And another benefit here would be for healthcare services for prenatal delivery, postpartum, and even other pregnancy-related conditions. Now on the paid leave, I already mentioned full pay 105 days for live childbirth, regardless of the mode of delivery. Whether cesarean or normal delivery, it's 105 days. Additional 15 days if you're a solo parent. 60 days of paid leave in events of miscarriage and what is known as an emergency termination of pregnancy. Let us now go to what is full pay. And here we are looking at the remuneration or earnings paid by an employer to a worker for services rendered or normal working days and hours not lower than the minimum wage. This is fixed by the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board. So if you look at the full pay that should be received, there is an SSS component that will be paid for by the SSS, and if there is a difference between what is paid for by the SSS and what is received in salary by the worker or the salary differential, that will be paid for by the employer. I will be giving you examples of this so that we will best illustrate what I am saying. So let us compute full pay. If you have a monthly salary of 14,075, and I think this approximates the minimum wage in the NCR, you have a maternity leave period of 105 days, which is actually 3.5 months. So it's straightforward. Look at your monthly salary times 3.5 months, then your full pay that you should be receiving for that 105 days should be 49,023.63. So you see this. Now, we still, every month or as we work, there are social benefits that have to be paid for by the employee. That still has to be paid for. It does not mean to say that you're not going to be paying for this anymore, because this is salary advanced. So as you receive your salary, there are deductions that have to be made, and you still have to consider all of this for SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. So if we look at that, the example I gave you earlier, you will have removing all social benefits. That social benefit will amount to 3,031. Then let us first compute how SSS will provide the benefit. So they do have formulas to get this. If your monthly salary is 14,000, they have a formula for that, and the maternity benefit is then 49,000. So that gives you that shows you how much the SSS will pay if your monthly salary credit is at 14,000. Now remember, I showed you earlier the full pay that was arrived at from that 14,000 monthly salary. That would be 49,023. We remove the social contributions of 3,031 plus. We now arrive at a subtotal of 45,991. The SSS will pay, because that is really what is credited to her by SSS, 49,000. So I will ask you, is there still a salary differential? I think you can see na wala na. Kasi kung ano man natira, that 49,023, there's still, of course, that obligation to pay the benefits, and now you're arriving at, there is no more salary differential, because the subtotal that she should be receiving after the 3.5 months is 45,991. So this is now another example of a higher salary, of a higher paid female worker, where the gross pay is 116,853. Now if that is the gross pay, we have computed the social benefits for 3.5 months, and the total deduction from that would be 4,786. Removing that from the gross pay, the amount that then she should then be receiving is 112,067. The SSS has a cap to the benefit they will give. Even if you receive now higher salaries, they will cap it at 70,000. That is the SSS law, and that is the cap that is existing. So with the cap of 70,000, you have still a differential of 42,067.08 centavos. It is now the responsibility of the employer to pay this amount. So this is how we compute for the salary differential. Now, there are exceptions to paying the salary differential. The DOLE has considered, and during, not just the DOLE, but this went through several consultations with our stakeholders. And of course, in the law of course, it also mentioned that there should be exceptions because there will be distressed establishments. And how is distressed establishments defined in the IRR? If you are a sole proprietorship or partnership, there is a net loss of at least 20% for 2 years. If you are a corporation or cooperative, a net loss of at least 25%. If you're a bank or quasi-bank, it is now under receivership or liquidation. If you're a retail service establishment employing less than 10 workers, that's the BAMBI, it falls under the barangay micro business, then it is also accepted in paying the salary differential. And this is also going together with the micro business enterprises engaged in the production, processing, manufacturing of products or commodities with total assets less than 3 million. And this is the exception which should, because we have, many companies have asked us, and we have seen that there are companies who even pay more. If there are already similar or even better benefits that have been paid for by the company, either through a CBA or an agreement or any policy, then of course, that is exempted. You're already given more, so why go? I mean, that is another exception to the salary differential. So, these are, all of these forms actually, if you would like to apply for a salary differential, is with the Dollar Regional Office. These are submissions that need to be given. Now, there are these submissions, I have already mentioned that, so that application, the receipt of the application by the DOLE, and the DOLE will evaluate this application and inspection. Okay, now, it is in the law and IRR that the payment of the 105 days shall be advanced by the employer within 30 days from the filing of the maternity leave application. Full payment. I know there have been so many concerns that have been raised with the DOLE, with SSS, with even the Congress on this, because we have received the concerns from the private sector, but this law actually already has to have, there needs to be a review of this law. So we are seeing that perhaps, looking at the review of this portion we will look at this now as we are going on and reviewing the IRR. But up to now, it's still full payment advanced within 30 days from filing, and that the SSS shall immediately reimburse to the employer the maternity benefits advanced to the employed female member only to the extent of 100% of the daily average salary credit. So, yung i-reimburse lang ng SSS is the SSS benefit. Yung differential, that is really the responsibility of the employer. But to get the reimbursement of the SSS portion, there should still be submissions that should be made. Okay, now, on the grant of the maternity benefit, there are also certain limitations that have to be considered. On the sickness benefit, the payment of the maternity benefit shall be a bar to recovery of sickness benefits provided under Republic Act 11199 for the same period where the daily maternity benefits have been received. Ibig sabihin, kung nagsisickness ka na at that point, hindi pwedeng dalawa. I-sickness mo yan, tapos maternity. These questions have arisen because of those who have to take leaves even earlier because of threatened miscarriages. So, maaga pa lang. Pero what they do is that they treat the earlier portion as sickness. Then, just before childbirth, so they can do the 105, then it is going to be treated as maternity leave benefit. On consecutive pregnancies, it is mentioned that if there is overlapping maternity benefit claims, the female member shall be granted the same in a consecutive manner. However, when there is an overlap, hindi na idagdag. I-continue na lang on the period after the overlap. And on multiple childbirth, I already mentioned this earlier, only one maternity benefit. And this is just an example of consecutive pregnancies. So if there is, of course, a childbirth on July 15, but the start of the 105 days is on July 1. There was another pregnancy discovered on August 31, the second payment, but then there was a miscarriage that happened in September 27. The full payment on the second contingency will happen after the end of the first contingent of the first pregnancy, which is October 13, then it will just continue up to November 25, which is an amount equivalent to 43 days. Solo parent, like I mentioned, you have an additional 15 days paid leave if you're a solo parent, but it has to fulfill the requirements of a solo parent that is provided for by Republic Act 8972. The option to extend for the additional 30 days is now without pay, but this is only availed for in cases of live childbirth. At the option, of course, of the female worker, if she still wants. If she doesn't want, then it's optional. And that due notice has been provided to the employer. What is due notice? It should be in writing and given 45 days before the end of the worker's maternity leave. So the decision has to be made even before 105 days. At the last day of what, that is the minimum, that's the maximum day, 45 days. It could be filed even earlier, that would be better. However, if there is a medical emergency, they can, it's okay that they can still file for that option, but subsequent notice should be given to the employer. On the allocation, the option to allocate, so to the child's father, this is additional 7 days over and beyond the paternity leave. It's addition. And this is regardless whether the female or the child's father, they're married or not. Now, another option to allocate is either to an alternate caregiver. This is where the mother would elect who would be that caregiver. It could be a relative up to the 4th degree of consanguinity or to the current partner. So these are the alternate caregivers who have been identified, and this is within the option of the female worker to choose on whom she would like to give that option to allocate for. Now, the effect, in case the female worker avails of the option to allocate, the SSS shall pay her the amount of the maternity benefit corresponding to the period not allocated. Ibig sabihin, 105 days. Mag-allocate siya ng 7. Simple na lang sa father. Ang babayaran ng SSS ay hindi na 105. Kasi ang leave niya ngayon ay hindi na 105. 98 na lang. Now, if the father, in his death, absence, or capacity or the alternate caregiver shall be granted by his employer a leave with pay equivalent to a period from 1 to 7 days, which means the option to allocate will range. That's a decision na ng couple. Is it just 1 day allocation or to a maximum of 7? And this could be a continuous or intermittent. Hindi naman sinasabing 7 days. Kaya, minsan tinatong calendar ba? Alam nyo kasi may pwede ngang intermittent, so pwede ngang putol-putol po yun. And, of course, the female worker shall notify her employer for option to allocate with the application for maternity leave. This is already, that leave form is already, the SSS has provided for this leave form for allocation, and the father alternate caregiver shall notify his employer of his or her availment of the allocated leave with the inclusive dates. And a written notice to the employer shall be required even if the child's father alternate giver is employed in the public sector. Kasi this is for the private sector nga. And this is the SSS form on the allocation of maternity leave credits. The SSS has said that this is already downloadable, and this is where you can look at that link in the SSS page. On healthcare services, PhilHealth will provide for prenatal, delivery, postpartum, pregnancy-related conditions to female workers, particularly those who are neither voluntary nor regular members, as governed by the existing rules of the PhilHealth. Now, there are, concerns on the maternity leave benefits after termination of employment. Leave with full pay shall be granted even if the childbirth, miscarriage, or emergency termination occurs not more than 15 calendar days after termination of an employee's service, because her rights thereto has already accrued. So, but you have to note that if there is a termination without just cause, that 15 days shall not apply. Even if it's a termination beyond 15 days, because it is a termination without just cause, you will still be granted the full maternity leave benefit. And the maternity leave benefits granted under this act shall be enjoyed by female workers in the public sector, in the private sector, even if she has a pending administrative case. So if the case is still pending, she should still receive the maternity leave benefits. Prohibitions of this IRR in the law, there should be non-diminution of benefits. If a worker shall avail of this, there should be no issues on security of tenure. It should not be considered a gap in the service. It should not be used as basis for demotion in employment or termination. There could be transfers to a parallel position or assignment from one organization to another, provided that it shall not involve a reduction in rank, status, salary, or amount to constructive dismissal. And of course, this should never be used as a mechanism for non-discrimination against employment of women. And this is, some issues that have been raised. Because of this, they would rather not employ women anymore. Let us look at, employing based on meritocracy, and of course, based on what can be provided for by the worker to the company. On taxes, the amount of salary differential shall be treated as taxable. No, it's exempted. Kasi it's here, it shall be treated as taxable income. I think this was before the BIR came out. Okay, please, this slide was prepared before the BIR came out with its issuance. It is exempted.
Yes.
So, it shall not be treated, may not ho dyan, nakamali lang ho yun. It shall not be treated as taxable income, because that was a late ruling of the BIR. Okay. And this is where it's exempt. Sorry, maybe we just remove that slide. This is what we want to show you. The salary differential is exempt from income and withholding taxes. 13th month pay, salary differential shall be included as part of the basic salary for purposes of computation of the 13th month pay of the rank and file employee. For disputes, if it's an SSS problem, it should be given to the SSS Commission. If it is with labor, then of course to the Dolifield Provincial Office. And this would be because of our issues relating to the payment of the salary differential. There are liabilities here. It is both criminal and administrative. There are fines of ranging from 20,200, imprisonment of not less than 6 years, and 1 day to not more than 12 years. And of course, the non-renewal of business permit. Again, thank you for joining us here in this webinar. We hope we have enlightened you. And I think following this, there might be some questions that you might wish to ask. Thank you.
We will now be entertaining questions. If you have questions, clarifications, we will be reading those questions. So Director now, ASEC, Nancy Cupeco, will be answering those questions. So we are waiting for the questions. We have here first question, ASEC. Our company is offering 2 months maternity benefit. It is not higher, but it is an equivalent benefit. Can we still apply for an exemption?
Okay, the way I understand your question is, the 2 months is equivalent to 3 months? Kasi ano yan eh, you compute at 3.5 months. So, you have to compute at 3.5 months unless you have some months that are higher than others. But that's why you compute, and if you are having different monthly salaries, then you go back to the daily wage computed to 105. But of course, it will depend on how many days work in a month. But basically, it's really looking at the monthly salary at 3.5 months.
Another question, what if an employee is currently on probationary period and will be on ML on her 4th month? How do we go about her regularization?
Regularization or payment?
Yun, that's the question. How do we go about her regularization?
Ay, baka sa tanong yan eh. Well, you know, I think when you regularize from probationary to permanent, we hope it's clear in your policy what you have defined in terms of performance, in terms of, kasi I don't know if this should have a bearing, but you know, leaves because of pregnancy, that should have been, of course, one of the foremost considerations that you had when you hired her. But if her performance is good, I don't think there should be an issue here. You hired her, she will be giving birth, but you will get her because of, again, I will say, perhaps meritocracy, and not because she gave birth and is now 105 days on leave. I mean, that's the way I would like to look at this.
Thank you for that, ASEC. Now, another question. If the wife is voluntary or self-employed, can she still allocate the maximum of 7 days to her working or employed husband?
Yes, she can. Because that is actually an SSS, but because she's a voluntary contributor, yes, she can.
Yeah. Next question, what is, if the female employee decided to allocate leave credits to her partner, will the 7-day allocated leave be reimbursable to SSS?
Actually, wala nang reimbursement nun. It's a paid leave. Kumbaga, maski mag-leave siya, it's considered paid. Yung wala na siyang i-reimburse. Wala siyang deduction, but that is a paid leave.
Another question, what is the effect of pre-termination of employee on her maternity leave benefits in the reimbursable amount from SSS?
She was terminated before she gave birth? Ganun ba yun? She is terminated. Now we look at the causes, because if, like I said in the last part, if the termination is less than 15 days, and there is no just cause, or she still has to get her full 105 days. But you know, kasi I'm not sure if there are things you should still further disclose, because it's like I'm only answering based on very on the details that you have provided, you can always call us. You see the you can reach our Dole hotline, or you can do our email askbwc@gmail.com if you would like further clarifications. Because like I said, parang walang detalye. And it's so hard for me to say definitely this is it. We really do need details on the quest, because it's very there are things I would like to further find out before we give our final answers.
On that note, Asek, she mentioned here, pre-termination means the employee cut short her leave. Yun yung ibig sabihin niya doon.
Babalik siya before 105 days, ganun ba yan? Oh, ayan ha. If, what we're saying is, at this point, do not pre-terminate your 105 days, even if you have a waiver. Because if something happens to you, may liability din si employer. And that is why we always, we highly encourage you, please complete the 105 days.
Hopefully that was addressed. And now another question, is miscarriage entitled to social contributions or not?
Meron pa rin, yes. You will still, kasi sweldo mo yan sweldong in advance, kaya yung sweldong yan, meron ka naman talagang babawasan na contribution. So that's still the way we treat it. It's not any different. The leave is the benefit, but your salaries is the salary you would be receiving na advance lang.
So are there any questions, clarifications? You can directly email or call Dole hotline at local 1349.
Siya pa rin naman yan, di ba?
And you can also email us. PWC, or you can directly connect us to research and publications. Last question, as a follow-up, the law requires 3.5 months. Our company has a benefit of 2 months ML benefit on top of SSS benefit. How can we apply the new ML policy? Can we apply for an exemption?
Okay. If the total benefits are the same, the company versus the expanded maternity leave, but then can you just give us numbers to work with? Kasi ganito yan. I'm also confused because unless you give us the numbers that okay, or give 1.5 months instead of 3.5 months. What do you mean? Sige. Sorry as a follow-up, the law requires 3.5. Our company has a benefit of 2 months. 2 months now, ML, on top of the SSS benefit. How can we apply the new maternity? Can we apply for an exemption? If you cannot do 3.5 months or give 1.5 months instead of bumaba pa. Kasi from 2 then now becomes 3.5. Yeah, but then the EML is 3.5. Yeah, based on the monthly.
On top of the SSS, they provide 1.5 na value.
Hindi, kasi SSS will still be reimbursed to her. I mean, based on the salary. So if you look at numbers, dapat una ko compute nila. Tapos, the SSS benefit is is the SSS benefit in addition to. Like for example, if you compute 2 months, let's just put it you compute 2 months, the whole 3.5 months, I'll just this is just something. If the whole 3.5 months is 30,000, at 30,000, your SSS benefit is how much? Like, oh nga, 30,000, so 10,000 there. Sige, 14,000 na yung minimum wage, di ba? 14 times 3.5, that's what we saw. Then you saw the SS benefit of 49. If they add 49,000 pa to the 45,000, that is way over. That's what you're trying to tell us. Kasi magbabayad pa naman ng SSS ng 49. Pero kami, nagbabayad ng porsyento ng SSS. That's how I'm understanding this. If you're buying the 49 in addition to the 45, yes, then that's over and beyond because you're also paying, you're giving that SSS benefit to her and the SS which is on top. If that is if that is what you are trying to say. But if it is lessening it to 2 months and you're counting on an SSS benefit of what you're saying is 49,000 kasi, di ba? And we did a computation. And then you said there's a 3,000 minus 3,000 kasi sumobrang SSS. Actually, the 2 months I think will not also suffice. You will really have to look at the 35, the months, the 3.5 months SS, but you will have no more salary differential. Now, if you're talking of bigger salaries and you're giving pa the SSS differential, if you compute the whole thing and it's way beyond the EML, that's fine. But if it is less, then you have to still give the salary differential. Tama ba yun? Or maybe it's best that you really call us so that you can give us the numbers we can crunch. I am working on presumptions here.
Last question. If the employee was not able to file her MN, no one knows about her pregnancy, and she had her preterm labor, is there any violation, or shall we proceed with filing even she already have given birth?
Okay. Nag-preterm labor, nobody knew, she did not file anything. She should still be entitled because it's, but the due notice should follow, even to the SSS. You just have to inform, and I think they will backtrack to where you started giving birth then to the 105 months. Basta as long as she has paid the SSS. This is very crucial, the SSS contribution. No SSS contribution, no benefit. Okay? So I think that's where we are all looking at. If there was SSS contribution, even if she did not notify them now, but then you will notify them later, but it has to start counting during, kasi walang you don't push it forward after giving birth. It will have to happen from the time of birth, continues to 105 days.
Thank you so much, ASEC, Tefi Pakbeko. And for further questions, you can directly send them an email request or questions. Then you can also call them via landline presented here. So local 3149. You can always ask them. So again, thank you so much,
Thank
ASEC.
you.
And we hope you have learned something from our speakers today. And we do hope we will see you again in our next IR webinar session.
Thank you.